Welcome back to AFTV, everyone. I'm here with Turkish. We've got to talk about international managers because they're winding me up. Well, maybe not so much me. They're winding Arsenal fans up. A little bit me. Look, I don't like a lot of what Deschamps had to say about Saliba. Some of it, though, requires some context we're going to go into. I don't like the fact that our players are playing international football, but maybe that's something I'm not allowed to be mad about. We're going to talk about it all. Turkish, how you doing, mate?
All good, you know. It's been a little while we've done a live like this.
That's what... So... Some of you might not know this, but like we get to choose whether we want to do a live show or a breaking news video and sort of talk about it or however. This felt like something I really wanted to chat to the audience, about. I can already see people in the comments, Shaq saying Southgate will burn out my CDM. Other people saying, I understand repping for the countries from Tom. He says, I understand repping for the country, but it's a freaking friendly and we have City on the weekend, which is very much how we're feeling. This is exactly why I wanted to actually talk about this live with you, because I think a lot of people would have quite a lot to say on all this. We've even got Hector saying Saliba's still a kid, really. He'll win a World Cup eventually, nothing to cry about. So some people are saying, look, it's not really that big a deal either. Should we go into it? Should we go into the details? Then we can sort of start to unpack it a little bit.
Yeah.
Understand why maybe some Arsenal fans aren't overly happy with what's going on. By the way, big thanks. Big hello to everyone saying big up Turkish and James. People come in saying, hey, how are we all doing? It's good to see you all. Let's start on the Deschamps Saliba stuff. We've got his quotes, so you can read along with us. Deschamps was talking about Saliba, and I've got the full quote, not just the little snippet that did the rounds on Twitter, which can always look a little bit worse. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's a great quote, but he says he's having a good season, but he also does things that I don't like so much. For France, he has limited game time, but when he plays, that hasn't necessarily gone well. Shout out to Joe on production if you can get the graphic up for us, please. I told him I'd have to prompt him. There he is. Let's go again. He's having a good season, but he also does things that I don't like so much. For France, he has limited game time, but when he plays, that hasn't necessarily gone well. The hierarchy doesn't favour him at the moment, but he is here. Upamecano has had game time, and perhaps William has had less. With certain players, I make sure to persevere because it can be confidence or little blockages that can shift. Some don't have any concerns. Some need game time. William has had less game time, so that doesn't allow him to be very calm. Okay, that's the quote. Before I ask for your reaction, I think we're in a world now where maybe if these quotes came out 20 years ago, people wouldn't really bat an eyelid. Manager just talking about a player and being quite honest. Mm-hmm. I think we're in a world now where managers are expected to be more back your players no matter what, and then everything else is kept internal. If there's things he's not doing well, whatever, keep it behind the scenes. I think where I've got particular issue with this is that it's not even like from a protective Arsenal fan perspective. It's more from just being a good manager. Not what the hell should I tell a World Cup winner about that? But you don't have these players a lot. You don't have them very long. Mm-hmm. And we know that William Saliba's got something like 12 caps for France, not very many. And he's never been an important first-team player for them because he's opted for Pavard, Hernandez, Upamecano, Kimpembe, Konate, whoever over him. So when you're sort of quite openly saying he doesn't get many opportunities anyway, I think to come out and be very direct, he's having a good season, but he does things I don't really like, or when I've played him, it's not really gone that well for him. I don't know. For me, even where there's a line of honesty is allowed, I think that's a bit far for me.
Yeah. Again, you said it with the first couple of sentences. That 20 years, Deschamps is old school.
Yeah. Oh, for sure he is.
I said this in a comment on the Sport Bible post about it today. I said that maybe it's his way of trying to get the best or better out of Saliba.
Maybe.
I don't think Deschamps is the greatest tactician or greatest coach. So there's that angle to it where a lot of people will say, who the hell is this guy to say this and whatnot? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it might be a technique to motivate. And it wasn't that long ago that, Arteta, I think, said, or it was rumoured to have said he's not ready for Arsenal. And I think Saliba made hints on socials and that he feels he is ready. And then lo and behold, a year and a half later, he's essentially looking back and saying, nah, Arteta was right. So sometimes there are these things where, you look back on and say, well, someone put it on him and he showed up.
Yeah.
So hopefully it is that. And hopefully Saliba does take it like that, because in modern day world, not just football, that everything's sensitive now. People are kind of built to be sensitive in a way. Where old school, where Deschamps' era, he won France, World Cup '98, didn't he, with France, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
I think
in that era, you know, any criticism was more so used for motivation more than anything else.
You touched on a good point there, which is that Saliba, I think himself, said that his first week back at Arsenal, Arteta didn't speak to him. And that was like he wondered whether that was a bit of a test, whether that was like let me see. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure that was the quote. So this might be a technique that has worked with William Saliba before to get more out of him. Maybe it's a way for Deschamps to actually light a fire under him and go, no, you can give better than you've given for France. And this is how I believe is my way of getting it out of you. Where I think Arsenal fans have maybe an issue with it, and look, you could say, what should we concern ourselves with? Quite frankly, I can't on the same video complain about Rice playing too much and then complain about Saliba not playing enough.
Yeah.
But I will say, Upamecano hasn't impressed me that much whenever I've seen him. Pavard left Bayern Munich. Konate is top.
He's a beast.
But I don't think there's anything in it between him and Saliba.
No,
personally.
Saliba has played a lot more games in the last 2 seasons than Konate.
That's very true. So he's proven his fitness. Kimpembe, obviously a good player. But I think my point is, like, Saliba for me is one of France's best 2 centre-backs. For me. And should be playing. In
my opinion, he is as well. But it goes back to, do I care? Do I really? I don't care. You know, as long as Saliba either brushes it off his shoulder or uses it for motivation and doesn't, fall back and feel sorry for himself, which I don't think he will, because I feel like he's matured a lot in the last 2 years off the back of some of the, the way Arteta handled him as well. I think he matured a lot. Recent comments, it kind of explained that from him. So I think as long as the outcome is one of those two, brush it off or use it as motivation and come back stronger. Be a contender for the starting spot come the Euros.
Do you think we worry sometimes about players going off on international duty and the impact it can have on them? I mean, some players like Aaron Ramsey just thrived on international duty. He'd go to Wales and almost it would just be a good thing for him. And there's other players I think have really benefited from that. I think away from Arsenal, I think someone like Harry Maguire. I think one of the reasons why he's maybe kept a certain level of kind of recognition by some coaches in the game is because at least he's been delivering for England where it's not happened for him at Man United. I wonder if we worry a little bit about, and mainly with England, and I shouldn't really extend this to other nations when they go play, but really with England, sometimes I do worry about players going off and almost the good work in terms of development and whatever they've had at Arsenal. Sometimes I don't think the internationals help, if I'm honest. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it absolutely elevates.
I think I've said this before regarding England and back in the day and growing up. I mean, Euro 96, I supported England. There was a vibe to it and whatnot. And then as I grew a little older, I was still a kid, but I saw the way England would go into the tournament, media would create the utmost expectation and literally build them up to full and build them up to. In that day, you'd call it the equivalent of abuse now, which is headlines and what happened to Beckham, for example, was. So I just thought I don't really care if Arsenal players go, because more often than not, if they go, and they're playing for an England or who, depending on a couple of nations, they're gonna come back under a dark cloud. It's even happening, to this day. Saka at the Euros, for example. Luckily, he came back stronger and he used it as motivation. Some players don't. So I don't care too much. But you are right. It can have an effect, I guess. It depends how much they. It depends, because we're going to talk about Rice as well.
Yeah.
And with Rice, I don't know Rice or Saliba. I just, I watch them play football and I see a bit of their private lives and, you know where their background's from and whatnot through a bit of research. So I think I'd look differently at Rice, because I don't know how close Saliba is with his French, is that an ultimate goal?
Got it.
Whereas with Rice at England, I think...
A good comparison is... I was about to say White and Rice, but actually that's not a fair comparison, because with White it feels like other stuff's gone on. But I guess what you're saying is with Rice, he's been very vocal and very we're going to talk very soon about him getting captaincy for England tonight, and what that means to him. So I get what you mean. It's how much does it impact them, because how much does it matter for them to make it work at international level.
That's all individual, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah,
More often than not, when you put it out there, people don't care about international football. I think that's changed quite a bit in the last 20 years. I think 20, 30 years ago, people did care a lot more. But we've got to understand that, you know, a lot of these players now are coming from a generation of fathers that cared a hell of a lot about international football. So seeing their son put on the country's colours is a much bigger thing to them than it would be a club, for example. You know, so it's all individual.
Yeah, I mean, look, with Saliba, I think he's super talented. And for me, I've made no attempt to hide the fact that my love for... Listen, I was on TR Sports yesterday and they asked me Arsenal Carabao Cup or England win the Euros. And I couldn't say England win the Euros because I just don't feel that connection to England football because I'm half Italian as well. So I've never made any secret of the fact that, even though I know the Euros is way bigger than the Carabao Cup, but for me it's always been club first and foremost. But I do think that... I hope that the players, whatever I think of international football, I hope that the players get out of it what they want, which is why when we're about to talk about this Declan Rice stuff, getting the captaincy, I'm so happy for him. I'm delighted he's playing tonight and he's going to wear the England armband. My questions are more about the game time he's had before. But let's go
Isn't this before we move on, isn't this Deschamps' last tournament?
Maybe.
Sure.
Is that right? I don't know. I didn't know if that was...
But he's been there quite a while now, so...
Yeah.
You know,
could well be.
It's comments, just, you know, use it to better yourself.
This is his third Euros and he's done 2 World Cups.
Yeah.
So, and obviously he's got to 2 finals, Euro final, World Cup final, won the World Cup. Yeah, I mean, that's quite a run, isn't it? All right, let's go through them. So through some comments very quickly. People are calling him the French Southgate. I think that's a bit unfair. So which centre-back is performing well for France? I think it's a good question. And this is really the point. It's like, how can you say Saliba, who is, you know, starting centre-back for the team, top of the Premier League, others centre-backs have, you know, been struggling. All right, Pavar's playing for Inter, I believe, and obviously they're flying. But I don't know. I think the point is, we're like, you're saying this about Saliba, but what are the other centre-backs doing so right that we're missing? I don't watch France all the time, but I'm talking at a club level. I think that's a fair comment.
That's where I agree with the Southgate thing, because that's a very Southgate-ish thing to say.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? It's like you're not really making sense. You're sitting there, words are coming out your mouth, but the amount of hypocrisy is just is crazy. And I think that those comments kind of do resonate with Southgate a bit, and Deschamps, sorry.
B Gunner says Saliba is still very young. Will be playing under the new France manager in 2 years. We hope so. Shaq says Saliba's quality deserves to play for France, but better for us and Arsenal. Saliba's a very good player. Everyone just backing what a great player he is. Saliba gets into any team in the world comfortably. What is the French manager on about? What else have we got? This translates to it's my team. I do what I want, says Vivan. And look, for a guy who's got to 3 finals in full tournaments, to a degree that's true, but you're right, there's a degree of this doesn't really add up. Let's leave the Saliba stuff there, because the reason I read the full quote was, I think everyone can see the snippet, which ends at, if I just get it back up, it ends at he has limited game time, but when he plays it hasn't necessarily gone that well. And that's like, that's not a great quote. Yeah. And you read on, he talks about the hierarchy, there's other players, he's not had as much time.
He softens
he softens it after.
Yeah. Because when you read those first 2 in isolation, which is what goes on Twitter, obviously it sounds, and it is still harsh, but I think it's softened by what he says after, but it still doesn't make sense. I'm not, agreeing that it makes sense.
And we're fair on this platform, people. We'll give you the full quote. We'll do the research. We'll let you know. Especially if you're going to criticise what someone said, at least know what they're really saying. Let's go on to Declan Rice, because he's wearing the armband for England. Some lovely quotes from him as well. Joe, you better be ready with this graphic. Rice, talking about wearing the armband, says, big up to you, Joe. Love you, man. He says, show some love to Joe in the comments, everyone. Our amazing production. He says, I'm speechless, to be honest with you. Absolutely lost for words. I think when Southgate told me last night I was going to be captain, I gave him a hug, shook his hand, and said, thank you very much. Let's roll straight onto the Southgate quote. He says, he has great leadership experience already at a tender age. I think it's a brilliant opportunity for some of our young players to show leadership. Some of our core group are not with us, so there's a different feel about the group, and that's a great opportunity for other people to step up, to lead, to grow. A lot of the players involved are the future of the team. for the mid and long term, and the more of those experiences they can have is useful for everybody. What are you laughing about?
Because Josh said the framing is terrible, Joe. After you told them to show love. So
After I talked him up, took up Josh as well. Okay. By the way, can you all see my tan line? So you know when you wear goggles
man
skiing?
said my tan line.
No, but it's not a good one. Can you see it?
I can see, I can see it. It looks like you got stubble.
Yeah, it's an error. I was meant to put sun cream on because it gets surprisingly sunny in the mountains. Anyway, back to it. Really nice quotes. And this is where, I touched on it earlier in the video, but let me just repeat myself again. This is where, do I want Declan Rice playing tonight? No. Do I want him fully rested? Yes. Do I really care about, England and all that? But if they're going to be a part of it, I want them to get the utmost out of it. If Ben White never wants to play for England again, fine, don't play for England again. It doesn't bother me. If he really, really, really wants to play for England, but this whole situation has stopped him playing, then I want that to get resolved for him so he can get back in the team. Yeah. Like, it's all about what the player wants from me. I just want, because without, being too cringe, happy player, plays their best football, and they carry that to Arsenal. And, we do, as fans, we care about these players as much as the club, and I just want them to, get what they want out of international football. Declan Rice is going to wear the armband for England. I'm delighted for him. I watched his press conference. I didn't just read the quotes. I actually watched some of it, and he's beaming, man. He sat there with the biggest smile on his face. And I'm thinking, this guy, man, think of the last year he's had. Captaining West Ham to a European trophy. £100 million move to Arsenal. Playing his first game in the Champions League. Leading in a title race. Playing in massive, massive matches. And now he's captaining England. You stretch that to 18 months, he played at a World Cup as well. It's an incredible 18 months Declan Rice has had, and that makes me really happy. Like, I'm really happy for him. Good on him. I just wish Gareth Southgate hadn't played him a full 90 minutes before. I know he's got injuries, and listen, I've got no problems having a pop at Gareth Southgate. Honestly, I don't rate him massively as a manager. But on this one, I can't really go on him too much because of the injuries, but I think he could have managed his game time a bit better.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that. Rather than debate the next one, because the next one's a big one, and we'll talk about why. Obviously, it's evident. But yeah, if he knew that was coming up, then I understand why. There would be some gripes about it. For me, as long as they come out of the games, ready for the next Arsenal one, I don't think too much about it. But then there's obviously fears that, the build up and whatnot, there's still 10 of the season left, 2 Champions League, hopefully more, and so on, that it could catch up with him later down the line where you can't link it directly to this. I get that as well. But we move on to the next one, which is, it's a big one, and I can't say anything, against him not playing the majority of that game, because captain in your country should always be a big thing. I think it generally in life, being patriotic can be looked down upon, but I think football is different. I think football, you should back your country, your people, and I think Declan Rice, I'm sure his family, his father, his grandfather, and so on, mother, grandmother, I'm sure they were all closely linked to England and watching football and whatnot, hence why he's in the sport, and hence why you can see how much it means to him to be on the verge of being captain. So I think it's a big moment. And how old is Rice again?
I think he's about 25,
Yeah, he's 25. And I think, I was going to say off the back of that he's a good example of sometimes being patient in your career. There's great examples of young players moving straight away to a big club and, having great careers. I think Declan Rice is a great example of the opposite. Someone who, could have moved year in, year out for the last 4 years, probably heavily linked to Chelsea at times, sometimes United. Never pushed for it, ended up winning what he won with West Ham, and like you said, everything else followed. So he's also a good example of sometimes be patient and do your best at where you are, and then great things can happen, like it's happening for Rice now.
Now, for those who are feeling, and I'll get to the comments in a sec, but for those who are feeling like, no, he's playing too much football, You might have a point, because in England's last 10 games, he's started 8 of them. So he's going to be starting tonight against Belgium, winning the armband. That's a friendly. Started and played the full 90 against Brazil. That's a friendly. So you're looking, I reckon, at a minimum of 150 minutes of football there. Like, I think he'll play an hour tonight or so.
Yeah.
Minimum. Mm-hmm. Chances are he might even finish the game, but who knows? Mm-hmm. He played in a 1-1 draw in North Macedonia in the qualifiers. He started that game. England were qualified. So I've already seen 2 games before this that he didn't really need to play. You got the 2-0 win against Malta. He didn't start. That was a qualifier, to be fair. So that maybe, balances out with North Macedonia. Because, of course, even in these games that maybe are dead rubbers, Southgate's got to work with these players and instill his ideas. I understand that. Mm-hmm. He started in the 3-1 win against Italy. He didn't start in the 1-0 win against Australia. And then the 4 before that, Scotland in the friendly, Ukraine, North Macedonia and Malta. He started all 4 of those. So that's 8 starts in the last 10. Now, the way I look at it is, he's going to want time with his players, Southgate. For me, the frustration is more about the fact this international break even really exists, more than it is about the fact that Southgate is playing him so much. Southgate can't rest. I'm sure every club wants their players rested. I'm sure all of them do. Mm-hmm. Why not just sack off this 2-week break, end the season 2 weeks earlier, and give the clubs more time together to have more friendlies before the tournament? Anyway. They have 2 anyway, so make it 4, and have have a good.
But what would you want as manager if you're an international? And I'm being devil's advocate here.
No, fair enough. You want them sooner.
That forms the best argument. This calendar year, there's been 1 international break.
Yeah.
There's a tournament coming up. If you was an international manager, how much would you maybe need that March international break
probably
to have that? So
massively, yeah, because you want to see. Yeah, you're right, because you want to see them in the season.
And then if you have it,
then
people will say, don't start Rice. But if you're under pressure like Southgate is, because Southgate's on the verge of something here.
Yeah,
his playing career for England was defined by that penalty miss. Mm-hmm. He's on the verge of completely turning that around, in a sense where if he gets over the line with a major tournament in '66. Forget about the penalty. That's the story that leads to where he is. So if it goes wrong, then he failed at international level as a player, and then he essentially failed because with this squad, I do feel like England should be winning something.
Yeah, I agree.
I do. Even though France, you always look at their squad and you can kind of see how much strength they have. I think England need to win something with the players they have now. And he's under pressure.
You're actually right. No, you're actually right. You've changed my mind, because you're right. He's not going to want to go from the November internationals all the way to the end of the season without seeing the players. And then I imagine if we did end the season 2 weeks earlier and he went and had that group for maybe 2 more matches before the tournament, he's got to pick his final squad, so he's not had the opportunity to maybe see players that are in good form for the second half. So actually, you're right. I changed my mind on that. I think it is purely because it's not even just about Gareth Southgate and all this. I'm sure there are people watching this going, "Hi, I'm an England fan. I know you're all talking about Arsenal and club football, but I'm a big international football fan, and I want to see international football played." That's totally fair enough. So I actually agree. I'm probably seeing this a little bit too selfishly from an Arsenal perspective.
Which is fair, though, isn't it?
It is.
Everyone's going to look at it selfishly.
Still think he didn't need to start in both games.
No, I still agree with break. That. Like I said, playing devil's advocate, but he's under pressure, man. He's under pressure, and it's a big moment in his life. It's the Southgate. Imagine your surname, the legacy was up. This could define it. Your great grandkids, your grandkids, and so on. They'll always remember the name, or not as many people remember it, and the people that remember will remember it for failure. So he's under pressure, man.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
I guess he has to make it work with Rice. That shows how important Rice is to him, I guess. But then you've seen Maguire and how important he is to him. That's not to say he's any great.
I like this from Nice Fakes. Says James is surprised that a footballer is playing football. Yeah. You can reduce it to that. You can reduce it. I think we've been pretty fair in acknowledging that. Why Southgate's going to want to play these players and why Rice definitely want to play in this game in particular. But I just want them... football is... And again, there's a bigger conversation, but football is wedging more into the calendar. So it makes friendlies like this a bigger conversation about, is this an opportunity to rest Declan Rice? Is it not? Because we've added the Nations League now, because we are adding a 2014 Club World Cup, because we have the Champions League expanding to not just a group stage anymore with 6 games. There's now something like 8 games, maybe more. Yeah, before of where you're guaranteed to play higher quality opposition at times, so that there are bigger games, which means exerting more energy, which means you just more goes into it before you get to the round of 16 knockouts anyway.
Yeah.
So football is adding more and more and more and more, and it means that every time there's an opportunity to rest players, there's a conversation. Now, for anyone who thinks this is just an England Southgate thing, no, I talked about it with Arteta and Saka. Why Saliba and Gabriel started in a dead rubber against PSV. Luckily, they came through okay. Yeah. Why Bukayo Saka came off against Tottenham, off against Bournemouth, off against Lens, and basically wasn't able to play against City at the Emirates a few days after. I don't know. These managers will have incredible science and data and medical experts, but they're not always right. And the people governing football certainly aren't always right in terms of trying to, get the balance right for fans, for financial reasons, for the players, and that's why these, I think, debates keep coming up, basically.
Yeah, and listen, international breaks have cost us over the years with injuries.
Yeah.
So that PTSD is always going to be there, but Declan Rice, touch wood. He's one of the ones that tend to. He plays games and he comes out the other side and he plays the next one. There's only one game this season he played. The Tottenham one.
Tottenham
came off. It looked like, what's going on there?
Fine.
Next game he starts. So
yeah. Hopefully he'll be fine. I'm sure he will be. Right. Let's talk about one last thing from Declan Rice very quickly. It was a set of quotes. He was talking about Ben White. And these are the quotes via Fabrizio Romano. He says, "When I go back to Arsenal, I'll speak to Ben White, and hopefully he does change his mind on England. It would be a great addition to the squad, but it's Ben's decision and Ben's life. I know Ben and Gareth spoke internally about it. I just hope he changes his mind. He's such a good guy. He's an unbelievable footballer. Sticking up for his guy, but clearly wants him in around the camp in some way. I don't really know what more I can add to the conversation, but I do want to get those quotes in, even just for news purposes, in case anyone missed them. Do you have much of an opinion on that? Or, again, are we just where we were with it all, that basically if he doesn't want to...
Yeah, it is what it is. They asked him and he answered, and it was a perfect answer.
I still think there's more we don't know, because there's conflicting reports. Some reports were saying that it became quite public and verbal between Ben White and one of the England coaches, Steve Holland, yeah. And then another report said, no, it didn't. It remained quite calm. It got sorted, but a week after he left the camp, and it was something to do with, being questioned about essentially a comment. There was a comment about, we don't really like football anyway, something like that. That was kind of the gist. I'm paraphrasing. I have to believe there's more to it, because I don't think one comment would... I don't know. We like you said, we don't know these players. I don't know Ben White at all. But I don't know. I feel like there must be more to it.
But when you're a guy that doesn't give a shit, it doesn't take much for you to be like, fuck this. And I think Ben... Yeah, I don't think Ben... Like, he already admits that he's not into football like that. He loves playing it, but he's not into it otherwise. So
he spoke of his pride for playing for England, man. When he first got the call up. And I don't know, maybe that first call up, you got to say those things. But I don't know. He seemed genuine, young lad playing at Brighton, got the call up for the last Euros. I don't know. It felt very genuine. Like it meant a lot to him. And I don't know. It's
similar to Saliba and Deschamps anyway. Southgate's gone soon, so.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So he just needs to, and he probably knows that. He knows that. So even if he does, we'll find out soon enough if it's all Southgate or if he is the reason why.
I'll tell you what I don't agree with is
not Southgate, but Steve, the team.
I don't agree with the immense criticism thrown at Ben White, this whole turning your back on your country stuff, because we clearly don't know what's going on. And I don't know. I just think if he doesn't want to play for England, like this is his career and his choice. Like he's not just football. Like he doesn't want to play. He doesn't want to play.
Yeah.
Some headline about him playing Uno in Dubai or whatever.
Yeah, I saw that.
Good on him.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Who cares? I just find it crazy. Like the amount, I'm not going to go into it, but there's been all sorts of stuff around England and kits and all sorts that we want. It's just like, what is going, like, I don't know, man. I just don't know. I think sometimes people take all this stuff a bit too seriously.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. But internationals, yeah, like I said, 30 years ago, there was a deep connection with fans and international teams. It's changed a lot now.
Anyway, anything else news-wise? I think we have to go through. I don't know. We've got some comments. The SMG says Ben White has wisdom beyond his age. His love for the game was shown when he led the charge to hug on David Raya after the epic shootout. It is clips like that and moments where it's like he clearly does love what he's doing. Like he clearly does love playing for Arsenal, and he loved that night against Porto, and he played brilliantly in it. That's all I really care about. Abdullah says, just tuned in. Any updates on the injured trio? There's a little bit doing the rounds online that Saka, Martinelli and Gabriel, who we know Martinelli has the gash on his leg, Saka and Gabriel pulled out of international duty. There's rumours that they could be touch and go, but I don't think we know for sure. So we'll keep an eye. What else have we got? Any other comments that I've missed? I don't think so. Harry Potter is going bald. Yes, he is. Leave me alone. Someone said, there's Spurs fans in this chat. Leave us alone. What else have we got? How can Arsenal player become world class when they can't break or aren't playing for their respective national teams? Just a thought. Do you think you have to have done it international level to be world class?
Roy Keane pulled out of an international tournament. There was no debating whether Roy Keane was world class.
Fair. Cecil's in the comments saying, hello, my brothers. We'll end it there. Everyone, I'm kidding. Hello, Cec. Everyone, thanks for joining us. Something different, going through some of the talking points around the Arsenal, universe, everything online, everything that people are talking about. So thought we'd just discuss it a little bit with you there, give you some of the quotes that have done the rounds. Declan Rice is going to be captaining England. I think tonight, is it? Is it tonight the game?
Yeah, yes,
I think it is. Best of luck to him. Like, genuinely, I really hope it goes well. Big moment for him. And, hope he excels, but more importantly, comes out injury-free. And look out for the rest of this week. We've got some great content coming for you in the build-up to the Etihad. The trip to the Etihad. We'll be outside the Etihad, actually, filming some content, looking ahead to what is our biggest game of the season.
Easily.
There you go. Look out for it, everyone. Catch you all in a bit.